that, you want to start us off, Dr. Ford?
Yes, so our first item for discussion is our new and revised course proposals. I have Mr. Don Norwood here to talk about these. This is an annual thing, and these will be up for approval at the December 21st board meeting. So this is an opportunity to ask any questions you might have about changes. And I do want to point out, there are some courses in here teachers have proposed. It would be great to run them. Just because you approve them doesn't mean we'll have them. Obviously, there has to be interest, amongst the kids to take the courses. We need to have enough kids to justify a section. But we also have to look at the entire master schedule and how all the pieces fit. And that can change from year to year based on what courses kids take, but also how many kids we have. Sometimes you need 6 sections of algebra, for example. Sometimes you need 7, and that has a domino effect kind of down the line at times. So I want to turn over to Mr. Norwood to talk about the courses.
All right, so like Dr. Floyd said, there's a couple here that essentially are we're combining some courses or changing the titles of them just to better fit some of our transcripted credit. There's some that are brand new offerings. I'll kind of go over those as well. But really, when you think about these and we propose them later on for approval later on this month, it's you're approving the idea of it, right? And the fact is, we're allowing these opportunities for our students. Again, if we don't have the numbers, then essentially they don't run. But at least the opportunity for the kids that we have here. So in talking with all these teachers, are very passionate about these courses. They want to run them as much as they possibly can, but kind of moving forward, they understand that essentially it's their job to make sure we're filling the seats in these classrooms. So the first two, Metals 1 and Metals 2, when we're doing those courses, we're combining two, in each case, 2 courses that already exist to better fit with Gateway's transcripted credit program. So really there's nothing that changes there. It's something that we're already going to kind of institute because the way they've changed the college accreditation at Gateway, it just better fits that mold. So essentially we're just better opportunities for children to make sure that we can offer that course to them. So really it's just taking 2 courses and molding them into one. For Metals 1 and Metals 2.
Quick question on that.
Yep.
So in the top it says that it's a general class, but then it also says to be considered advanced for a full lottery process.
Yep.
So I didn't think the current Metals was.
So the reason that is because we still have to meet with Gateway to decide where they want to go with these transcripted courses. So officially how they're going to accept them. So okay. Yeah, that's really, it's just, I'll have more information and I'll have a definite answer for you on the 21st. But we don't, I think, have our meeting until the 15th or 16th of Gateway.
So it's possible those would be then on the 5.0 scale for Metals?
But possibly, if the kids are advanced in that, yeah, for Metals 2. Okay.
And for Metals 1?
For Metals 1,
because it's checked on Metals 1 as well.
Because I have to talk with.
You have to talk to them? Okay.
Yeah, I'll definitely have that answer for you.
But this would only be for the classes that are currently in the lottery system.
Exactly.
The lottery system is phased out for freshmen.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yep. The next one I have up is ELA for English. So there's a proposal for technical writing. So we currently have college writing. Now the proposal for technical writing would focus on offering workplace writing. So the biggest thing is doing reports, professional emails, proposals, things along those lines, and making sure they have the abilities to do that. And it's for the people that essentially don't necessarily want to go into the college writing, but offering that 4th year opportunity to our seniors that still want to pursue an English class that isn't, essentially senior lit or college and career writing. So.
And that could be that can meet their requirement for their 4th English course?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's just another elective we'd offer.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see, math. So with math, we've done a lot of different changes. We're really only offering one brand new course, essentially. Algebra 2 essentially is going to be offered as without trigonometry because we noticed a severe deficiency in our students when we look at ACT testing and something along those lines. So when we're looking at the standards and talking with the math department, Algebra 2 essentially would focus on those same Algebra 2 standards. It wouldn't have trigonometry in it, which isn't part of the standardized testing right now. We realized that when we were analyzing testing-based questions. So that would be the change with Algebra 2. Now, we do have Algebra 2 with honors. That would then become Algebra 2 with trig. So you see with some of these, we're just kind of changing the title, and it'll fit into the pathways that we're trying to create for the department. So that's the major difference with Algebra 2 with trigonometry. It's how we run Algebra 2 right now.
And that would be the honors course.
Exactly.
The honors credit for the
Yep. So then that would also be considered for the advanced or the lottery system as well, like honors algebra is right now. I'll talk about, I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm going in order or not. Pre-calc, so we have honors pre-calc currently. We're gonna just change it to AP pre-calculus because the AP board is now offering AP pre-calc. So we just thought it'd be a smooth transition to give our kids that opportunity. Same standards are being offered at AP pre-calc as they are in honors pre-calc, so it's just kind of like changing the name of the class and then offering the AP test.
So now would it go up as far as how it's weighted too?
It's already,
Honors are
it's still weighted
4.5.
as, yeah. So
Well, but honors is 4.5 and our AP is 5.
then yes, it would change.
So then,
Yep,
okay. So
absolutely.
that's a lot.
All APs are 5. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
then this one-
but right now it's an honor, so it's only, it only gets 4.5. So that's.
Yeah, so once we change it over to AP pre-calc, then absolutely
Okay.
yes. The only course we're officially offering, like brand new, I would say, is financial algebra. Now, what this will do is this will give seniors that fourth year option of math as an elective. It also ties into their personal finance state requirement as well. So it's an alternative to personal finance or financial lit, while also giving the option essentially that fourth year of math. All right. World languages, I'll jump that. So I'm proposing American Sign Language to be offered. We are very Spanish heavy. Obviously, we know with the German program going virtual and kind of examining alternatives for that in the future, there's been a huge demand, I think, for American Sign Language in talking with the student body. So really, for me, this is kind of like an no-brainer because I think kids will really enjoy it, and the fact that offering them another option for foreign language.
Now, this could potentially require an additional part-time or combination position. So just be aware that we don't have anyone on staff right now who's certified to teach this.
So, and with that being said, so again, kind of going along that idea of approving the idea of the course, we do have people on staff that could get certified to teach it, as well as I have 2 other options for teachers that are looking to essentially maybe teach this part-time. So, personally, I have 3 people in mind already that would maybe want this position. So, if we were to approve it.
How do you guys go about recruiting kids to do like, oh, we have this new course, is there a whole?
We'll do a little bit of that at Panther Expo,
Oh, yeah.
as well as, before we start course offerings, we'll have the new course review guide, and essentially have departments again doing their own cheerleading, really. It's just like, these are new things that are being offered, recommendations, requirements, that sort of thing.
It's kind of tough in this situation. Typically our teachers will recruit for their own electives, so they're their own best advocate, I guess. Whereas in this position, we don't have something yet, so.
I will recruit for this because this gives my son another option to find Spanish too, which I'm not looking forward to.
Well,
We have counselors at the high school.
The council
absolutely,
as well.
and the World Language Department fully support this. They're really excited about this offering. So, all right. Then we're going to go to our theater classes. So, in talking with Miss Ivan, she's seeing a massive increase in essentially people interested in essentially theater and theater tech. So previously offered, she had Theater 1 and Theater 2, Theater Tech 1, Theater Tech 2. Now she's getting essentially the students that are well and above and advanced the theater tech and advanced theater classes. So she'd like to offer essentially an advanced theater and advanced tech theater. Now, the thing about this one is we're unsure of numbers because the prereqs essentially have to take Theater 1 and Theater 2 or with her essentially approval. So we're looking at running these courses for the first couple of years. It's really going to fall down to what seniors or juniors didn't have that opportunity that can still pursue their talents in this course. These courses.
My only question on this one is it said maximum enrollment 8, which seems like not enough to sustain a class.
Absolutely. What would I tell you is, like, with maximum minimum enrollments here, I wouldn't put a lot of weight on them yet. Okay. Just because I don't know where we're at yet with those.
Because you just want to be fiscally responsible and offer
exactly.
a class that only had 8 people.
So a lot of these decisions will be made when we do the course offering. So the fact is, like, teachers can have like a wish list of what they want, but then it essentially comes to like, well, what if 20 people sign up for this? And you say maximum enrollment, or we're not going to run it, or you can try to do one section of 20. So I think it's a different conversation to have with those teachers when we're in that situation.
And that does bring up a good point, maybe for another day. I am not aware, and I haven't seen anything regarding like a philosophical class size from the board for the courses that we offer. So the district doesn't know. a board member in, we have that, you know, we want this many kids at this grade, and this many kids at this grade, right? And we try to
In
stick
the
to
past,
that.
it was generally, if there was less than 10 kids, they didn't run the course.
Okay, so 10 is
But
kind of
I think
cut
too,
out.
like to get kids, like if this is a beginning course, you have to like, if it's 8 and not the 10, to start recruiting, like you have to start somewhere, because maybe people don't know about it, students don't know about it, and then word of mouth, they can say, oh, you should take this class. So philosophically, I'm willing to like give it a go, you know, if we don't get the numbers the first semester or second semester, whatever, and then hopefully recruit from more kids.
And that's something to think about, maybe like a probationary period with the course. The
Yeah.
fact is, like, if you can get those numbers up, I understand.
Yeah.
And some, like I said, it won't be financially liable, but I mean, it means we can still keep offering it, it's just you were waiting for those students to essentially sign up and take it. And then her third course that she's proposing, which I'm not supposed to play favorites, but it's the one I'm most excited about, is her adaptive theater course. And with the amount of passion that Miss Ivan has for theater, this is an offering for our special needs students, and essentially a class dedicated just to them. The fact is, it's not modified. It's not, you know, we're not looking at 1 or 2 individuals that we essentially need to modify content curriculum for. It is mainly for special education students that are seeking out theater, as well as students that want to work with special education students as well. So the fact is, you know, we could be running a class that has 5 to 10 special education students in it, while we also have maybe 5 to 10 student leaders running it as well, and essentially assisting with that. So this is where we can tap into like youth frontiers and youth options, as well as people in the special education classes offered here already.
ACAP out of Waukesha offers a big fine arts program for special needs too.
And I believe the idea here was from
Rolling Meadows,
Rolling
yeah,
Meadows.
so Rob and I went to the Redefining Ready Summit at Rolling Meadows a couple months ago now, and we observed this class in action. It was great, and had a chance to talk with the teacher, and we're hoping that we can build a relationship between Miss Ivan and that person, you know, to kind of get this off the ground.
everything with it. I mean, like I said, this is probably the one I'm most of it. It's phenomenal. I love seeing it in action. The passion behind it. You know, the major thing I would say here and to bring up is that this would bring Miss Ivan to full time, so 100% FTE. So that's the major cost there. With any of these, and talking with her, she's like, I can budget whatever. I don't need any budget or anything along those lines. But the biggest cost essentially would be making her 100% FTE.
So that course,
What's up?
would any kids that signed up to help,
Mhm.
you know, regular ed students,
Yep.
would they be able to earn some sort of credit or something for?
So that's something again, because this type of class has never been offered here, we're looking at maybe teaming up with like leadership credits and certifications that you can be getting that as well, but absolutely. I mean, we're looking to get as much even work experience possibly, I mean, with what we're doing. So yeah, we talked about that a lot last week.
It'd be like a TA quarter credit, right?
Something along those lines, yeah. But
It'll
even
be
I mean,
something, yeah, it'll be something, it's hard to say.
yeah. So moving on to science, we're gonna look at offering chemistry in the community. So essentially this is a chemistry offering for students that aren't necessarily pursuing a science-based career, but are still working with practical chemistry. Again, kind of fitting within the pathways that we're trying to create in each department. So getting the basics that they need in chemistry, obviously for that standardized testing, whether it be SAT and ACT, as well as opening up to the practicality of chemistry, not necessarily the mathematical theory of it. So that's why we're looking at offering chemistry in the community as that option for our sophomores. All right, and then physical education, we have Strength and Speed 4. Reason this is being offered up is to allow seniors that fourth year option of essentially pursuing strength and speed conditioning their senior year, versus the offerings that we have their freshman and sophomore year. It opens up for that half credit elective.
Do they need a senior PE class to graduate, or you only need like?
It just kind of opens it up for that elective,
Okay.
for an offering. Yeah.
They need 1.5 credits of PE
Right.
in the course of their.
Yep. Let's see. The next two are from our business tech department. So we have interior design as well as fashion design. So these classes, I guess, were offered before I was here as a teacher last year, but I guess due to a retirement, and the reshuffling of the department, these courses were no longer offered. This is a chance for us to revisit this and essentially offer it to the FCS department. Major cost here would be the hiring of potentially a quarter to a half FTE position for this, because we don't have anyone currently on staff that can teach this or these courses. With the growing nature of our FCS department, or that section of our business tech department, there seems to be a need and definitely an interest there, as well as the connections we can make, because these would be possibly transcripted credit as well classes with surrounding areas.
And I do want to point out, we surveyed the students in regards to our schedule about a month ago. We talked about this as a board, and I asked the question, what classes do we not offer that you'd be interested in taking? And both of these came up a couple of times. So, these proposals are in response to what our students said they want. So hopefully we can deliver.
And then one of the last minute additions that we had is from our library team. So the offer here it's called Paw Print Digital Design and Library Technology. And really this opportunity would allow students to pursue a couple things. One, the standards associated with being a library and technician, as well as running the paw prints. So we're looking at student-run enterprises and kind of offering that opportunity as well to our students. So we're looking at having our current full-time librarian offer one section of this to students that would normally have like a TA position or something with the library, as well as opening it up to one that are pursuing kind of this business design realm. Alcorn runs a program just like this, so I did a little research because I hadn't heard of anything like this in the past. And they run it very successfully, so I mean they have anywhere between 12 to 20 students sign up for it. It's one semester at credit to students that would normally be getting a TA credit for that anyway. All right, and then the two I just want to make mention of are two summer school classes. The timeline on that, I can throw this into the December 21st meeting. We have only two offerings for summer school, and really they're based on kind of recovery. What we've been doing with Math Lab this year with Ms. Lomax is that we've really been focused on standard-based recovery. So the fact is, if you're deficient in standard, really focusing on that standard. So a lot of the front-end work has been done already. So really what we're going to offer in the summer is called math credit recovery by standard. So essentially you'll just be focusing on the standards you were deficient in to get you ready for that next level of math that you'll be taking your next year. Same thing with the English department. We're offering what's known as the Bridge to High School Reading. So essentially this is offering a high school reading, focusing on deficiencies and getting you ready to be successful in high school courses, as well as those that are deficient in the freshman year can take it as well.
And then you're going to have the same summer school classes that you did last year?
Currently, yes. Mr. Bender still has to essentially make sure that everyone's still on board. These would just be two potential new course offerings based on what
I
we're doing.
know that, what I heard in the community was there wasn't too many courses that were required to take or counted towards graduate. Like we got rid of civics, which a lot of people, kids took. So now there's only like what, one?
Yes,
One
world
class?
something.
And gym. Yeah, gym and what was the other? World history? No,
World history wasn't offered.
It was health and gym were the only required courses that you could get credit for. The
You
other
used
ones
to
were
be
like,
able to take two, like
Yeah.
civics and something else.
yeah.
World history.
And hammer, yes, and see that, it's kind of a
Right.
bummer, that's why I made mine do it,
Yeah, so
and it sucks up a lot of time to do something.
great. I think the community would appreciate it if you got more,
That,
required
requirements.
classes, yes.
and the gym and
I don't
health
know.
is hard to get in, it's like standing in line for a concert.
Right. Do you have to staff it from people here?
No,
Not necessarily.
no. I mean, we would look at our staff
Right,
first.
first.
You know,
I don't know why those
in
got
fact,
bumped.
there's two different
Staff.
pay rates. If you are a full-time employee here, Wilmot teacher, you get paid higher than if you hire somebody from, a neighboring district.
As a superintendent, how do you feel about hiring somebody for summer school who's not a staff member? They're a certified teacher and everything, but
Yeah.
is that something you would think about doing or not?
Yes,
Okay.
I think we look at our folks first,
Right.
if they're interested, and then if they are not, then absolutely, we would hire from outside. And that's something to think about as a board. Obviously there's a cost to running summer school classes,
Right.
but if our position is we'd like to offer more so kids can get additional credits in the summer, then we should probably have a larger conversation on that at some point.
What do you think?
So speaking specifically to those two, like, we offered world history, global studies, and civics.
Yes.
We've had plenty of turnover, especially coming from the social studies department. We definitely have a lot of new blood there that might, want to take advantage of that opportunity in offering those. It's just something we would have to examine and the need, and we would essentially sign up to take it. But I'm not necessarily against it by any means, but as long as it doesn't necessarily mess with any of the other requirements that we're trying to fulfill within the year.
I think the benefit is it allows for freshmen to take some electives to free up some spots, which especially if you're not sure what half you want to go, to have some elective space free as a freshman when you're deciding, do I want this PLTW or fine art or whatever. So to add more of those back in is a benefit.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think at Wilmot too, we offer such a great variety, and it hooks those freshmen. They don't wanna just have to come to school and say math, English, science, social studies. If we hook them with that fun stuff and they have opportunity, get the required stuff over soda, and then come in,
Yeah.
they're like more excited to come to school then. And then maybe they will perform better, coming to school, their attendance might be better, their packages out. We were just talking about this at my school, because we don't have a lot of electives where I work, and the freshmen just come for those basics, and they're like, oh, I don't wanna be here. But now hook them when you're here, I think it's,
Our passion is educating kids. If we have them here in the summer, we get
yeah.
an opportunity to teach them.
I think as well as, the other thing I would look at there is making sure especially with global studies and civics, is making sure we're hitting all the standards in that 6-week window.
Right,
And
yes.
giving them the opportunity to truly appreciate it. And one, when we look at civics, my own personal belief on that is that I don't think freshmen should take civics.
With you.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so maybe offering it later on to opening up opportunities for juniors and seniors possibly I agree with, but I don't think freshmen should be taking it. But so just a bunch of different things to look at, but obviously nothing that I'm against.
Thank you very much.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you, Snark. Okay, so next up on the agenda then, I have the draft of the 2023-2024 school calendar. Danielle, would you please pull that calendar up on the display there? So there are two documents in your packet here. The first one is the draft calendar. Looks like this. The second one is an Excel spreadsheet, and it shows you how many hours our kids are receiving in instruction, that sort of thing. So I just included that so that you guys know where we are at in terms of the state requirements. At the high school level, students are required to do a minimum of 1,137 instructional hours. And it's not based on days any longer. So this is something I recently learned.
That was nice to see in there, how the why behind it. It's always good to see, yeah.
Yeah, well, and it gives districts some flexibility, which I used when building this calendar. So I want to point out a few things. There's a lot that's the same as this school year. For example, the beginning of the year format is pretty much the same. There's 2 days where we have new professional staff, and that's where we provide kind of some intensive onboarding. There's a lot of just human resources type stuff, training, things like that. The following week, teachers, and professional staff are here Tuesday through Thursday for in-service days. That Wednesday is the Panther Fest. And then they also have their choice of 1 of 2 days. It's either that Monday or Friday. And some teachers had asked, can we do following Monday? Yeah, that's fine, as long as they get one of those days in. It is kind of unique in that there's 3 days that following week where they're not required to work. And that was, I've been told, that was something that was requested by the professional staff. I'll tell you, this year I saw most of them in the building anyway, getting their classrooms ready, which is fine, it's up to them. That first day of school is a freshman only day. Again, I was super impressed with the job that our Link crew did and the advisors did with the freshman group. It was just a great positive kickoff for those kids. It doesn't count as a school, like the hours don't count as instructional hours because we only have a quarter of the kids. So it's a staff day, it doesn't count as a kid day. And then that Friday before Labor Day would be the first day of school for all kids. It worked out well this year, I think, talking with teachers, because that's kind of a long day to begin with. a lot of teachers that used to be on their feet, talking all day long, kind of get out of teaching shape over the summer, so to speak. And it's, rules, syllabi, procedures, all that stuff. And then Labor Day weekend, and kind of hit the ground running the following Tuesday. Now we're looking at rolling out standards-based grading building-wide next year in most courses. There'll be some that aren't, but most courses. And I think that there's going to be a need for additional staff development once we've started. Like, we can prep them as much as we can, but once they're actually doing it, I think there's going to be more questions and they're going to need more support. So I added in an in-service day in September, 2 weeks into the school year. I think that's a good time, but once everybody's kind of gotten a chance to feel standards-based grading and do standards-based grading, and then another one a couple weeks later. And the intent of those days is really to provide staff with as much support as possible. In order to do that, I eliminated some late starts because it comes down to hours, right? And I know, there's a lot of parents and community members that aren't keen on late starts anyway. Kids love it. Parents don't, from what I'm told, for the most part. So that's a significant change here. I wanted to point that out. I also added an additional conference evening in February based on feedback from parents. And so we'll have 2 conference evenings, one in the fall, one in the late winter or early spring, and then a day off of work after those conferences, so that Friday off. And that was a request from staff. It's a long day for them.
So how long will conferences be, Mike?
Well, we haven't made that decision yet. We're looking at a minimum of 3 hours. Any more than 4 would probably be too long. So somewhere in that 3 to 4 hour window. We talked about how do we maximize that time. These are some things we still have to figure out with the staff, but we don't want downtime in those 3 hours. Right? We want to see as many parents as we can. So there's a few things logistically, but probably 3 to 4 hours to answer your question. I also want to point out, I have March 5th penciled in as the ACT day for juniors here. It's typically that first Tuesday in March. I don't know if that it will be for sure in 2024, but that's where it's at on our calendar right now. This year it's scheduled for juniors only. And I know it says that on your important dates here, but decided to change that. That'll be a full attendance day so that we can count it. So juniors will be taking the ACT. I'm not sure yet what we're gonna do with the other students. We'll figure it out. Freshmen and sophomores may be taking a test as well to kind of prepare them for that. We talked about potentially a community service event for seniors or something like that to try to make it a positive and productive thing for them as well. So it's something that we're working out, but be aware that in this calendar is a day for all next year. And then I also want to note here that February 19th is a professional development day for staff. And that's a common day with Westosha. And then we also are hoping that all of the sender schools that go to both districts assign their in-service day on that day too. Now my vision, and I don't know if this will come to fruition next year or not, but my vision is, we hold a small district professional development conference and invite all the schools. So the thinking behind that is, there's so many talented teachers and professionals, in the area. And, what I would like to do is start off with a speaker. Everybody's in the PAC or the field house. We bring in a well-known education author or the teacher of the year or somebody, to kind of reinvigorate everybody in February. And then teachers volunteer to teach sessions. So if you've got an expertise in something, you could put on a 45-minute session, and then teachers from any of those districts could attend. Some of you are teachers or educators. If you've ever been to a large conference, you get a book of sessions and you pick, and you go to the ones that interest you. Well, that's what I'd like to do. And then have, roundtable discussions, maybe as part of a lunch, where, we just say, hey, this table over here, is, the topic's going to be, mental health strategies in the classroom or something like that. Anybody who's interested has their lunch, and it's just sharing of ideas and things like that. I feel like that could be a really positive thing. So, John over at Wisconsin Central, we just kind of got to talking one day, and we think that could be a really great thing if we can get participation. So
We used to do it.
did you really?
I don't know why that.
Okay.
We used to come to Wilmot, we had a speaker, we walked around, we had breakout sessions, needs to be good lunch. I'm doing that.
Okay.
That we used to do, I've been here a long time, that's from, and it was wonderful, because then I got to meet with other schools, I don't get to see the Tree Roots teachers or the Riverview teachers anymore, because we don't meet anymore.
Yeah, I didn't know that
I
you guys
loved it.
did that. So
Yes,
we're gonna
long
try to
time
bring it
ago.
back then.
Like, long time ago.
Was that when it was still a consortium? It was before the consortium went away. right?
Yes,
Yes,
we all
I do
were,
remember that.
yes,
Okay. Yeah. So that's the idea.
that's awesome.
So I don't know if it'll be next year, but certainly by the year after. Maybe next year we can come together.
Next
We'll see. So that day is kind of a non-negotiable day. And then the last thing that I want to point out here is that graduation is after the last day of school. So I talked with somebody at DPI about that, because there are districts, including us, that have it scheduled before the final day of school. I don't know if that was allowed in the past. It's allowed in Illinois, where I live. I think the seniors are doing a week and a half or 2 weeks early. It's not allowed anymore in Wisconsin.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's what DPI told me.
Does Central know?
No, I think Central ends before the graduation.
I don't
They did
know.
this year. They
Yeah.
ended before the graduation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know. So moving forward, we need to be aware of that.
Because this year, that's the case, correct?
Say that again?
This year, graduation is before the end of school.
It is.
But we're using that as we didn't know, we'll fix it next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because it directly impacts us, I really want.
Or we could potentially, change our calendar. I don't think that would be a very popular thing to do at this point in time. So now we know. So we correct our action moving forward. So I asked the person who provides scheduling support at DPI, and she said that it all comes down to hours. So if we provide hours in another way to our seniors, then it can be done. But there has to be participation in that. You can't just say, hey, we're going to offer senior tutoring after school
And
all
nobody
year
showed up.
long. Nobody shows up and they get out 2 weeks early. You can't do it that way, right? So I don't see, at least I can't envision any way to make that work where seniors are reclaiming those hours throughout the school year. So that's why graduation is the following Sunday next year, because now I know.
And then real quick, did you talk to Central about the graduation day?
I did, and John and I agreed that when we hold it on the same day, Wilmot will be first and Central will be second.
Okay.
It sounds like maybe they've alternated in the past.
We discussed that.
There's other ways to do it. There were some folks who had
I know.
some folks had asked about a Friday night graduation. It sounds like some schools do that. The problem with that is you have the state track meet that weekend and potentially other WIAA events, depending on how the schedule falls. And I don't want any of our kids to miss graduation because they were elite in their sport and got to go. So I made the decision that we would keep it on Sunday for that purpose.
It may have been part of the reason, but I know the D1 athletes typically are gone, which might be why pulling it up earlier, because they report, we've had that with the students they're the ones who play volleyball or football or, what I mean?
Okay.
So, holding it later, sometimes they have to report, like, first week of June.
I hadn't heard that, but that's
FYI,
another
it
issue.
wouldn't
Yeah.
change anything, but it could impact a handful of students.
Sure. I think that's everything I wanted to point out on the calendar. I do have block days in here. That could potentially change. As you know, we have a scheduling committee that's also doing work at the same time as this. So if that happens, then I'm hoping we know by the board meeting, and I'll point that out on the calendar for approval on the 21st. So, any questions?
How do you feel about the late start Tuesdays? Do you feel like they're effective?
it's hard to say, since I'm new here, and I haven't had the opportunity to observe every Tuesday morning because I have other things going on. I think the potential is there for them to be really effective, but there's not necessarily administrative oversight. We do have teams that would not have any other opportunity to meet, or a regular opportunity to meet. So there's an advantage there. Certainly teachers are meeting, I don't want to give you the wrong impression, but it's one of those things where they're probably going to get as much out of it as they put into it, right? I do think that, and this is just anecdotally, I do think that the kids in general show up on those days in a different way than they do on full school days. And by that I mean, it's a kind of a,
They don't see the.
yeah,
There's
not totally blow off,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of quizzes and tests and work days and things like that. So I think there's also and we are looking at attendance data, but I think kids who might have an early release or a late start, that day's even shorter for them, and possibly the incentive to say, well, I guess I'm not going to come today because I only have 3 hours of class. 5 hours or something like that. I don't know that for sure. We're gonna have to look at our data. But we also run into that same issue on block days at times when kids have, a block of study hall. If they have a late starter or early release, then their days are really short, So that's an issue there too. I don't have this, at this point. I get the feeling that day isn't as productive in general for kids as a regular school day. Now, could be wrong about that. It's just my observations in a short amount of time I'm given. And I do think that, I've heard this from teachers. I do think that there are a number of teachers that feel like, 30 minutes isn't enough time either to do what they want to do with the kids, So.
Do you feel like it would be more effective, like, as an early release day, or do you feel like the morning is?
Yeah, so we talked about that. I don't know. I do know that morning meetings tend to be more productive than afternoon meetings. And the purpose of this is, so teachers can meet. And my hesitancy would be that those meetings would be less productive in the afternoon, especially as things build up during the day and they've got other things to take care of and appointments after school and those sorts of things. So I don't think we would switch to early release instead.
I was just curious, because we implemented this not long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just curious as to how it's going.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say. And again, just the feeling I'm getting at this point. I do want to say teachers are meeting and working hard. I don't want to give the impression they're not.
Right.
But again,
But
it's
I
what they
agree
put
about
into
the
it.
mindset of the students.
Yes.
Do you see
Yes,
that
I
with your
see
own
it.
kids?
We just had an early release, and it was like, they're like, why am I here? And they don't, it's that, I don't know, they feel like there's an excitement in the air, I don't have to do as much, and I'm not gonna put as much. And coming off of COVID, where they really haven't done anything, and now we're putting that on top of them too, they're not as conditioned or in routine of learning, every day with this stuff.
Well, and I did an observation on our last late start, first period, and I expected the kids to be lively. It was 9:35.
Yeah.
Because normally they're hitting their stride at that time.
Yeah,
But they
we're
were
staying up
really
late.
sluggish.
Yeah.
I was
But they're like,
surprised.
oh,
It was like they rolled out of bed at 9
Yes.
at 9:20.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can stay up late, they probably,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they probably stayed up late. Maybe that's why.
Yeah,
Well, I'm sure.
my daughter used to get up early to
Mine
go
does.
to breakfast.
He said, I got a late start, I'm like, okay, just get out of bed.
Yeah, it was different than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
So, are there any other questions about the calendar? Thoughts?
I would just, I guess this is just from a parent, I'm a little OCD type person. Consistency with the late start, like
Yes.
it's always like the first Tuesday of the month,
Yes, because I'm like, I gotta put that in.
would be more helpful than like the randomness.
That was
Um,
feedback from the family advisor too, that was some parents said the same thing. But
Yeah.
it's more
And if, like, some months are 2, some are 1.
Yeah.
It's just like the first Tuesdays of the month, that consistency would be more helpful, I think, as a parent.
Yes.
And even as a teacher too, or a student, like, Okay, it's first Tuesday of the month.
Yes.
I have a late start.
Yeah, so I heard that feedback, and you know, the challenge, I guess, is, you know, we've got 13 late starts in 9 months. You know, so you can't have the same amount every month. You know, one thing that I looked at is, you know, could it be, you know, the same amount of time between late starts every 3 weeks, for example, right? The problem with that is they don't all fall nicely then. You know, I tried to balance them out. You know, some months we have more days off than others. So like if you look at November here, we've got 3 days off. So that's why there's only 1 late start that month. So they're kind of balanced that way. I get the routine thing. Everybody, you know, likes routine and consistency. The same thing happened with March, for example. Full week off, I only wanted 1 late start there. So, you know, I think, you know, as long as we are proactive in communicating with our community when those days are ahead of time, I think they can plan accordingly, and maybe even provide everybody with a list of those dates. I haven't seen that this year. You know, these are our 14 late starts or 16 late starts. Just 1 sheet of paper, that might be helpful. You know, so hopefully that'll help with the consistency.
I like the emails that the late starts come. That's very helpful.
Danielle does a great
Thank
job
you.
with that.
Nice email reminder.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
That's awesome.
So I did hear that feedback. It just didn't fall nicely no matter how I did it because of the hours thing.
Did you confirm with the sender schools about the spring breaks? Because I know last year there was a moment
Yes.
where they had
Yep, we all had the same spring break. And we gave them our Christmas break or holiday break dates, our Thanksgiving dates, and the start date, end date, and the February 19th date. So,
So you gave it to them, it's up to them now.
it's up to them now. So the plan is, after leaving this working session tomorrow, I will share this out again. So this will be presented to the board. It'll be up for approval in December after that will be finalized. From what I've heard, they typically approve theirs after ours.
Yes.
So, they'll have every opportunity to align, but they can also do what they want. All right. Thank you. What I'm hearing is bring this back. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda here is a strategic plan update. So this is information for you. There's nothing to vote on here, but I wanted to let you know where we're at with the strategic plan. Recall that this is part of my entry plan and my superintendent evaluation goals for the year is to work on the strategic plan. So I think I'm going to move over there just so I can see the slideshow I'm talking to. Okay, so I wasn't here for any of the initial sessions, but I know many of you were, so feel free to chime in with the history of this if you want to. But when I came in, obviously I realized right away there was work to be done with the strategic plan. A lot of great stuff there. It looks like the committee was deep into the work, and I had a chance to review all the documents and loved what I saw. Back in the summer of 2021, the board approved several things. And that's kind of the timeline of the meetings and stuff. But the board approved the new mission, Preparing College Career and Civic Ready Graduates, which you'll see throughout our building. We recently had some new posters printed by Conference to replace other posters that had the old mission statement. Our vision, becoming a destination district, and that's for both students and staff. We want this to be a destination place for them to work. And then also 8 collective commitments. And I won't read those to you, but that was great work done by the board. In addition to that, there were also pillars and 5-year strategic plan objectives. So everything that you've seen so far on the slideshow was approved by the board. Remember this? Okay,
Yes.
Good. Okay, and this is great. There's really 4 areas, and in talking with Joe Schroeder, yeah. He said in general, you know, all school districts tend to have objectives in the same 4 areas, right? You know, because we all do kind of the same thing: student engagement and learning, district and community engagement, staff excellence, and resource alignment. Now, the work that wasn't completed was the annual objectives and then action steps. So that's what I have for you today. So I'm presenting this so that you guys know the work that we're doing as a staff in alignment with the overarching goals that the strategic plan committee set. Okay? So, geez, getting windy in here.
Yes, it is. This is advanced.
Okay, sorry. Okay. So this will be an annual report, and the plan is to provide this information to you before the school year starts. I'm doing it now, obviously, because I'm new to the district and had to kind of get my feet wet, my bearings before I could get this one. So we're a little late in the year, but there's plenty of time to still accomplish a lot in alignment with the strategic plan. So we have five main objectives here, and then there are action steps for each of those. So you have two documents in your packet. One of them is this slideshow here. The other one looks like this at the table, and it says Wilmot Union High School 2021-26 Strategic Plan Year 2. Each summer I'll give you a new one, next year for the Year 3 and so on. Okay. So what you'll see here is that the objectives that were developed by the Strategic Planning Committee are in the red boxes, and those things will be the same every year. The gray box has the annual strategic objective aligned to each of those. So the first one here, create our academic and career planning scope and sequence, that's objective 1.1. Now, we have an ACP scope and sequence, but it's one of those things where we're constantly revising and improving. And below that, on the table here, are steps to do that. So the white box are the action steps that staff are doing. Okay? So I'll be adding evaluation criteria as we go along. How are we measuring this? How do we know, where we are and what we've accomplished, and where we can continue to grow. The status column here, ignore what they say here. Some some of them are not started, completed, and so forth. Those don't represent where we are currently, but I just wanted to show you how we're going to document. Yeah. So it's a little drop down. This is a working document and not a PDF. So it's a drop down and then the due date there. So internally, we have administrators and other key staff members that are assigned as leads for each of these items. Okay. So I oversee one of the annual objectives. Rob oversees another. Nicole oversees one. Morgan oversees one, and I think Don oversees the fifth. And then underneath those, with all the white boxes, there's a lead for each of those as well. So we'll be meeting regularly to talk about where we are with these things, and what we need to do, what kind of support we need, those sorts of things. My plan, and if the board is in agreement with this, is I'll report back to you quarterly or every 4 months, and I'll have this document here, but then we'll have the evaluation criteria, we'll have the correct drop down for that column, and so forth, so that you guys can see where we are with the work.
That's really nice, it's a great map to see, accomplishments in the future focus.
I'm hoping so. What you'll notice in this year, and it is common, talking with Joe, is that, a lot of it is determining where you are and where you need to go next in year 1, year 2, that sort of thing. And then when you get to years 3, 4, and 5, you're going to see less of that and more granular things. So for example, we're talking about updating existing local and regional career pathways, right? But by year 5, it might be a specific pathway. That we've identified, we want to add or we want to change or that sort of thing. So we'll be zooming in as it goes along.
Right now you have big chunks.
Now there are a couple options for the board in extending this plan, and we're far from this. This is year 2 out of 5, right? It can be a rolling process. So when we get to year 3, we can add on another year and just keep doing that perpetually. Or when we get to year 4, start the process again, and then add a new 3 to 5 year plan. plan. And that's a decision for the board to make when we get there. There's benefits and drawbacks to both of those methods. I think we kind of need to see where we're at as a district. If we're doing well, we might just continue to roll over. If we decide, hey, we've got to do some major overhauls in certain areas, then it might be, okay, we're going to bring in the community again, the staff again, facilitator again, and we're really going to look at what are our core values, what are our goals, what are our strengths, what are our challenges, and basically go through the whole process again. So we'll talk about that in a couple of years, but just so you guys know, there's no end game here, but there are some options. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys that and see if you have any questions. It's not something that's up for approval, but I will keep you informed. What I'd like to do, and it's really up to you as a board, is to report back to you every 3 or 4 months and try to pick months that are lighter on the calendar. Because informing you this probably may take some time. So kind of spread that out if that makes sense. Or if you say, I want to know in September, January, March, and July, we can do it that way too. Any questions?
Right, this is excellent. We started back a couple summers ago, like, what are we doing? And now seeing this was like the final piece we were missing. So we appreciate all your hard work on this. And this is easy to follow, I think, and so specific, exactly what we're looking for. Yeah, so thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I do want to give credit to our team. Mr. Struthers is part of that. Morgan Lease, Rob, Don, Katie, Jan Bender, Nicole. I feel like I might be missing someone. I apologize.
And it's all of this stuff uploaded into like our website or like, I know we already have a folder for people who want to check this out, like.
Not yet, but it will be.
Okay.
It will be. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next item then. So I wanted to give you guys an update on my entry plan as well. I apologize for back-to-back slideshows, but easiest way to communicate here. So recall that when I began my tenure as superintendent, I told you that I was going to develop basically a 100-day entry plan. And the goal behind that is threefold. It's really to learn about the district and just absorb as much as possible, talking with people, observing what we have going on here, and then also reviewing documents, data, pretty much everything that I could get my hands on to learn as much as I could about the school, right? And then step 2 is to start putting those things, that I want to put into place, in motion. Goal setting is a big part of that, and then step 3 is enacting on those things. So, and what's reasonable within the first 3 months. So this slideshow here is really just talking about the things that I did within the first 3 months. So phase 1 is the pre-entry. I didn't actually start my contract until July 1st, but you guys saw a lot of me. April to June, I ended up building, I think, about 10 days, and attended meetings and stuff like that. So I really started working ahead of time, building a relationship with staff. I met with each of you one-on-one, asked you a similar set of questions so that I knew who you were personally, what your goals for the district are, why you got involved in the school board, all those things, right? And I compiled that information and based some of the things that I wanted to do in the first 100 days on those conversations. I also did the same thing with the 3 administrators who were here that stayed, and then hired the other new administrators and kind of did that along the way with them. So part of this process was attending board meetings, as I said, including some of those special meetings and stuff. Had to hire several people, as you know. That was very time consuming in that first month, but super important to get the right people on board. I feel great about the people that we hired, so it was worth the time, I'll put it that way. Did a lot of data review. I've listed just some of the things there to give you an idea of who we are as a district. The second part here, take that information and begin to lay that foundation for the transition. And some of that had to do with policy change. Some of it had to do with procedures. Not having a director of HR anymore really changed the way we operated in the district office. Danielle took on some of those duties. I have taken on some, and Sandy as well has taken on some things. So that's an example of a procedural change that we need to do. So go ahead and scroll to the next slide here. This is just a list of some other things that I wanted the board to be aware of. For example, I meet with all of our administrators either weekly or every other week. And I see that as a way to mentor the administrative team individually, also provide guidance in the direction that I want the district to go. It helps with communication. I know what's going on in all aspects of the building. I meet with Nate a minimum of every other week as well. Morgan, she's not administrator, but I meet with her weekly, and then our building and grounds coordinator as well. The changes made there was the community outreach coordinator used to report to her in the athletic office, and the building and grounds coordinator also used to report to her. I changed that. I have those two people reporting to me now. Still working with her because a lot of it has to do with athletics, or activities, but those people report to me. So been working on increasing our community outreach offerings. As you guys know, Morgan's been to a board meeting. She's eager to come to the next one, probably January, and share more with you about that. Been working on establishing relationships with the other districts in the area. And then I had a goal to develop a Board of Education calendar of reports. That's something that I shared with you guys a couple months ago as well. And I think that's really going to help us as a board organize our meetings and make sure that we're doing what we need to do throughout the year in a timely manner. I can add things as they come up, of course. It's kind of a working document, but that was a big task at the beginning as well. So. And then the last, the planning phase. Go ahead and scroll down there, please, Danielle. The planning phase here is some actionable things that we've put into place or we're currently working on. If you would go to the next slide, some examples include the restructuring of the administrative team and what those duties are. We've changed some of our communication strategies, working with Rob. He's got his parent newsletter. We have our student newsletter now. I'm trying to implement the school messenger text messaging system more. We haven't gotten a lot because I don't want to overdo it, but we're using that for key things. If you haven't signed up for that, we can get you included in that. Working with the strategic plan consultant to finish the plan we just discussed. Standards-based grading work. As you know, there's a lot that goes into that. And getting feedback from students and parents has been helpful to kind of guide us in our work and our professional development that we're going to be doing on January 20th. And then working with Danielle and Morgan to improve our social media website presence. And they're doing a great job with that. So here's some other examples. We've developed new evaluation tools for building and grounds and the fitness center staff. They haven't been evaluated in many years. All of our employees should be receiving evaluation annually. So that's something that we're implementing already. We'll talk about support staff evaluation after this. We've made some changes with our administrator evaluation. So I've aligned our principal, athletic director, business manager, and associate principal evaluations to look similar to the teacher evaluation process. One of the CSAs developed a tool that we use through Frontline, just like teacher evaluation. So theirs is similar. I think that consistency is going to help when it comes to goal setting and expectations and such. So my evaluation tool, talked about that a couple months ago, implemented new cell phone and hat policies with the goal of reducing classroom distractions. I think it has done that. Definitely, we still have a couple stubborn students who are holding out with the hat thing, but I think it's a different climate in terms of how students are showing up to the classroom. So that's a good thing. And then talked about this recently. We're working with Kenosha County to develop a new mental health support program for students called Culture Champions. We had our first presentation on November 14th. We're meeting with Terry Foss from the county. It's next Wednesday to kind of debrief that. We surveyed the students and got some good feedback from them. And then we're going to plan our next series of discussions. So certainly I haven't been able to accomplish everything that I want to. Some of the things that I wanted to point out that we're still working on, and some of them may not ever be finished, but reviewing those academic pathways and programming, that's a huge one. Increasing student, parent, guardian awareness of college and vocational programs and certifications offered. That was something that I heard from the school board and others. Is, let's try to improve the communication coming from our guidance office, right? So I am working with the guidance office, Danielle and Morgan, to update their portion of the website so that the information is more easily accessed. They have great slideshows that have everything in it that they share with freshmen and junior parents, and you've probably seen them if you've attended those meetings with your students. But it's not necessarily easily accessible if you think about something and then have to try to remember where to find it, right? So we found a website from another school that we liked for the guidance section, and I'm hoping that Danielle and Morgan are going to be able to build that later this month in a similar way. That way, if you say, oh, I want to know what this Start College Now thing is, you can just go to the guidance page and boom, there it is, click it, and there's the information, as opposed to having to Google it, or you'll find the slideshow and then find the link in the slideshow, and just trying to streamline it. So,
And the links will be on, right?
the links will be on there, yeah.
Okay.
Or if it's not a link, the information that a parent would need or a student would need will be on there, yeah.
Well, because every kid waits till the night before the forms are due.
Yeah.
And then because it
Oh,
always
you mean the
has a
form? Yeah,
Yes, because it'll always say, go to the guidance, your guidance counselor to get this form. Well, it doesn't help me if it's the night before it's due.
Yeah, we can
So
we can
that would be
absolutely
awesome.
link the forms there. Make a note of that, and you'll
Yeah.
link the forms.
And Mike, I think, is the website mobile friendly, or is it just me? Like, when I look on my phone, you can't read everything.
Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of
Okay.
our website on a mobile device.
Right.
However, we talked about, Danielle shared with me a great option for a different website, what do you call it? Provider, yeah. But there's substantial costs involved in those sorts of things. So I haven't looked into budgeting if we want to make a change. There are better programs, yes, but they are a lot more expensive. So one thing that we had discussed is, and Morgan as well, is developing a promotional video for the school. We have a great one on our website, but it's a couple years old, and I'd love to be able to showcase current students and current offerings and that sort of thing. But those videos, they run like a minute and a half, and they're like $10,000 to produce. They're pretty
departments each
expensive.
need one, did you know that?
So
Like a year or two ago.
no, I guess I haven't seen that.
Yes.
I'm talking about like if we want to have a professional company make one.
Okay, but just so you know, each department did for the course offerings, like this is the CTE, these are the programs you can take it. I think the problem was nobody knew about it. It's like, okay, you created this great thing, but maybe Danielle and Morgan will be a way to tell everybody, hey, watch these great videos when you're thinking about taking courses, check out all the departments, because they're there.
Right, and by the time they were done, it was after.
It was after course selection, but even
Yeah.
sending the center schools that, because kids are getting all the information from their 8th grade teachers.
Yes.
They're not, like as an 8th grade
Now
student,
we
you don't know
don't
what
know
your
what
team is
No.
saying. So like
Yeah.
send that out to the center schools and say, hey, you can show these videos to your classes, and
Yes.
well, it's-
That's a
yeah.
good point. No, I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, so
Yeah.
if you look at, I think it's under each department, it will say like, there's a link to the video, but you would have to be looking for it.
Gotcha. And we
Yeah.
can make that a little more user friendly.
Yes, yeah.
But what I was suggesting is, in the future we may want to invest in having a professional company create one of those videos, and maybe it's if we're able to get those scoreboards, maybe it's at that time or something like that. That might be some do the boards, maybe it's just the video, but
We had that digital productions club. What if they took on something like that? You know, utilize those skills. I mean, that's,
it's a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
I mean, that's something that they could definitely learn. I mean, my daughter's in film and TV, that's her major at DePaul, and she would have loved to have done something like that. Actually, she put together a huge portion of their graduation video, because it was 2020. So,
Oh, yeah?
so they had a whole graduation video, so she put together a huge portion of it, but that's how she was able to utilize those skills, so.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I can look into that. So anyway, those are some of the things that we've been working on in phase 3. So just some conclusions. Daniel, let's go back to the other one. Just some conclusions for you guys. Obviously, I think that Wilmot is a great place. We do have a strong foundation here. You guys know that. For me, a big focus is developing that highly effective team with over 20% of our staff new this year. That's a big task and it takes time, but we're working on that. I'm focusing on improving the climate here and making sure that people want to work here, people enjoy working here, people work well together. I accomplished most of the objectives in the entry plan, but there is significant work to do still in the areas of curriculum instruction, academic and career planning, strategic planning, budgeting, as you know, talking about the whole last meeting, and then redefine ready. That's something we're still working on. We're still having a tough time. Skyward is pretty much cleaned up now. However, we've got to determine how to run the reports that we need, because there's only one person who knew how to do that, and that person no longer works here. So that's coming still, I promise you it's coming, but it's been a monumental task as well to clean up that data. I'm hoping to have a report for you guys sometime soon with 2020-21, 2021-22 redefining ready indicators. It won't be public facing yet. They don't recommend we develop a report card for our school until we have at least 3 years of data. So that's something we'll look at in the near future, but not this year. Any questions about the update?
Oh, this is fantastic. Thank you so much for the work. And it's very simplified, it's easy to follow. And I think as you update, the strategic plan and then also with your evaluation, it's really simplified very easy. You've accomplished a lot already, so. I think it
We're real
shows.
busy.
Yeah, it shows. It's a good work. Yeah, appreciate it very much.
Good. Okay, and then we only have one more thing on our agenda, and there's no exhibit for this one. I just wanted to get some feedback from the board, and it's regarding future support staff wage increases. So correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I can tell, at least in recent years when there has been increases for support staff, there's been a recommendation for a percentage from the district administrator and the board approved an amount. Is that correct? Okay. One of the things that I had shared with you guys when I took over, and Nate and I have been talking about this quite a bit, is I would like to change that approach to one that is merit-based. And by that I mean the evaluation will matter when it comes to a wage increase. So we're talking about evaluating all employees, so it's kind of along with that. And the idea behind that is basically, I'm going to call them shares, because I got that term from Nate. But an employee would receive a certain number of shares based on their annual evaluation rating. So I don't have anything set yet. I want guidance from you guys, and we'll go from there. But in general, let's say there's 4 ratings that they could receive: excellent, proficient, needs improvement, and unsatisfactory. Let's just say that. So, for example, if they receive excellent evaluation, they would earn 3 shares for the wage increase. If they receive the proficient, it might be 2 shares. And if they receive the other categories, it might be 1 or no shares. They may not be able to work here anymore, depending on what it is. But hopefully everybody's at the high end of that scale. And then the board would decide how much a share is worth. And you would have the opportunity to say, well, it's gonna be a percentage. But you could also say it's gonna be an amount. So it can vary from year to year, depending on where we're at budget-wise. So as an example, let's say you decide that a share is worth 1%. Those employees who receive an excellent evaluation, who have 3 shares, their annual wage increase then would be 3%. Those who receive provision, who get 2 shares, theirs would be 2%. Okay? Or you could decide a share is worth a quarter. So those with 3 shares would get a 75-cent raise, and those with 2 shares would get a 50-cent raise. You see how that works?
Yes.
And my hope is there's incentive to, do your best work so you can get an excellent evaluation and a higher wage, right? Get your shares, basically. So from there, the conversation Nate and I had was, when do we do that? When do we award the shares? So I think in years past, that percentage raise happened at the same time for everyone. I would propose that we would do that when the evaluations occur and everybody in the employee group has received their evaluations. So we want to try to make sure we're equitable. I don't want to be unfair. One group gets evaluated before another, they get their raise first. Like, that's a concern there. But at the same time, we want to be timely with our evaluations, and we would like to reward people when those happen. Right? And I don't want to necessarily wait until April or May to do all the evaluations. Like, we have employees who have been here for a year and haven't received their evaluation. I'd like to do it now, and then when everybody in that group is evaluated, then we can award the shares. But again, that would be up to the board to decide. So that's what Nate and I have discussed, kind of what I'm thinking. But I wanted to get feedback from you guys to see if that makes sense. If you have questions, concerns with that. Thoughts?
I think it's a great idea because then you're rewarding people for doing an awesome job. And you also gotta be, at our school, some people are getting hired at a higher rate than others because they, hired them, so that'll take care of that too. That makes people frankly be better along with these people, get more money from people, so that'll take care of all that.
Yeah, so in the old model, if you were hired at a higher rate and you get a percentage raise,
Yes,
you get a bigger percentage. Is that what you're saying?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, that's true.
And the old way was, it was phase 1, 2, and 3. So you worked your year, you got bumped up. You worked your
Yes.
second year, you got bumped.
Yes, no matter what, there was no shares.
Yes.
Just showed up.
And then after that, so you would get like 2 raises those first 3 years, right? Because you got the cost of
Right.
living and that. So it was just based on who showed up.
Yes.
Would you be the only one evaluating them? How do you calibrate?
No,
How do you
I won't
evaluate?
be. So I'll evaluate some of the support staff, but sometimes it'll be the supervisor. So, for example, Dan Nelson is the building and grounds coordinator. He would evaluate the building and grounds staff.
Okay.
I would evaluate him.
Right.
I'll evaluate Danielle as our assistant, but I won't evaluate other assistants, the people who they work with. So like Rob would evaluate probably Lisa Overton, for example, as they work closely together. So
But there would be nobody, like a coworker evaluating another coworker. You
no, a
have that going on
supervisor would
Okay,
do the
okay.
evaluation of the support staff member.
before.
Yeah, no coworker evaluations. So what I would need from you guys, if this is something that you want to move forward with, is we would have to decide what a share is worth so that we can start these evaluations. So I don't think we would have to approve. We could. I don't know if we have to approve a formal structure necessarily. Certainly, I would explain it to all the support staff so we know what's going to happen. But because it involves money, you would have to approve the amount.
So can you give us some recommendations that you and Nicole work together with the budget and see what we can afford and what you think is reasonable compared to, like, I don't know, where to start for that.
Yeah, I can certainly do that. And I'd like to be able to bring some to you at the situation this year because we do have a budget deficit. You know, how much, you know, what's the board's tolerance for that? You know, that's gonna play into what we're able to do. So that's something to consider as well. I don't wanna do anything that's gonna put us in a really bad financial situation, but at the same time, people are working hard and maybe feel fully recognized for that, so. We gotta find that balance.
I do like the idea of, I know when we talked, and we were talking about the term the government uses, or at least the Department of the Navy uses is shares. And, but I like the idea of, on your shares and whatever your performance metric is, that it's your share, option would be up to, so that, for example, let's just say somebody comes in mid-year or something along those lines and you're evaluating them, you have the option to say, okay, this person was an excellent performer or whatever, but you don't have to give them 4 shares for being proficient. It's like our chart generally is up to. So if there's, it gives you some leeway so you're not.
So you can take the circumstance into consideration.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And that way you're not just 100%, okay, well, this person performed, you know, outstanding. So you just have the ability to, have a little leeway there or flexibility on your rating.
Are your shares whole, or are they in increments, like 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5?
Ours are whole.
Yours are whole?
Yeah, and it's, our rating is 0.24 and then, I'm sorry, 0.34, I think.
Ours are similar, but they give, instead of getting, like, it's really hard to get excellent in my industry, so you don't get proficient, maybe a proficient class, or meets our expectations class, like it's, not saying you have to do that, but it's something very similar to what Nate is saying, but it provided a little more incremental,
Partial shares?
yeah.
Okay, do you, as a board, do you want a formal plan, for approval? If you do, you know, we're locked into that until we change it. Or would you just like a recommendation on what a share is worth?
I like what Aaron said about knowing where we're at. Once you and Nicole kind of have that conversation of knowing sort of where we're, you know, because it might be more a year or so. You guys giving us some options potentially on what the share value is, not necessarily a like hardcore plan, but just more or less presenting it, at least from my standpoint, presenting what some options are for what the shares could be and what that looks like financially.
I do see it vary, you know, from year to year or over time, you know, depending on financial standing, so.
I like the shares of the quarter or whatever, and I think that maybe gets to Melissa's point, but I don't know how a 75-cent raise, correlates to a certain percentage based on the normal wage of support staff salary.
Right.
So it's hard for me to give you what I like better without having that data.
Yeah.
On how it correlates. Because would a 75% raise be way more than 3% on the average employee, or would it be way less? You know what I mean? I just don't have that.
Depends on how much other food you use.
But I mean, there's should be a general range for both, so it's great. This is the high end of a support person's role.
But we have some support staff that is on old,
Right,
the old bin is substantially higher than the young.
but then that's
than
what
some
Melissa
of
was saying is
You're
that
right.
when you go with quarters, it kind of helps that out.
Right.
But I just don't know.
Yeah, so I think the increase was 4% last year, 4.2% or something close to that. Do you guys remember? Roughly 4%. So the majority of our support staff.
No, that was 4.7.
Yeah, oh,
their
that's
hourly rate is
7.7.
between
Because that was
19
CPI at the time.
and $30 an hour, so you kind of
Right.
base it on that. You know, we're looking at around $1, maybe on the high end for last year.
most of the stuff. Except a couple, because we may change the positions.
Right. That should be all in those.
I guess I thought it was custodial staff. Would that
Yeah.
include Paris too?
Yes, not Paris.
Oh, no, right, not
Administrative
as
assistants.
administrative assistants, that's right,
Yes.
okay.
So some groups and not others.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, you're right, it wasn't the same, okay. Any other thoughts on it? Okay, I'll work with Nicole to see if we can come up with some options,
Yeah.
projections on. Okay. Sounds good. That's everything I have for today.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 6:48. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?